You're welcome to this tutorial. In this tutorial, we're going to learn how to create a quiz. And we will also look at how to prepare your question for a quiz. To create a quiz, you need to locate the course of which you have to create the quiz inside. In my case, I have Demo 111. You locate it and click on it. When your course is opened, make sure Turn Editing On is turned on. So I'm going to go ahead and turn editing on. After turning editing on, you scroll down and look for a section that you want to place your quiz. So for instance, I want to add my quiz down here. So I'll go ahead and edit the topic and give it a new topic. So I'll click on edit topic, and then in entering the name I have to uncheck this. I'm going to enter the name for my quiz. Then I can go ahead and put a summary about the quiz in the summary text box. After entering the summary, we have restrict access. With this, as we've already talked about in our previous tutorial on how to upload a file, it's the same function. You can choose a date to prevent students from accessing the quiz until a specified date, or we can select a grade of which the student is supposed to attain before opening the quiz. And then we have user profile too. So with this, we are not going to restrict access to our quiz. Now we go ahead and click Save Changes. Now we have our topic changed to suit ours, and this is the summary we gave under the topic. The next thing to do is to add an activity. A quiz is an activity, so we click on Add an Activity or Resource. It will bring us to the list of activities. So we're going to look through. We are now dealing with quiz, so we're going to select quiz. So here we are presented with the opportunity to make settings to our quiz. This is where we are going to give the time for the quiz, the grade, how the quiz is going to be. Everything is going to happen over here. So it is requesting for a name. We give it a name. Any name you choose to give it, it's in your own hands. And then we're going to write some description about the quiz. After entering the description, if we click on Display Description on course page, even before the students open the quiz, the student will see the description. We are going to uncheck it. We don't want the student to see it until the student has opened the quiz. So we will leave this one. Now we come to timing. This is where we're going to set the timing for the quiz. We have open the quiz. Time to open the quiz, meaning the time that the student can open the quiz and do the quiz. So we are going to select this date, 24th April 2020, and then we select the time too. This is hour and this is minutes. So we're going to enable it, and we're going to select a time either ahead or behind. Since I want to try the quiz after this tutorial, I'll set the time behind. And then time to close the quiz. We can set the quiz to be available for 20 minutes or a whole day or some days. It depends on what the lecturer wants to do. In my case, I'll leave the quiz there for about 2 days. I'll enable the close quiz, and then the time limit, that is the number of time that the students have to spend in answering the quiz questions. I'm going to choose 5 minutes. Then when time expires, we have 3 options here. It says open attempts are submitted automatically. This means that when the student is able to answer some part of the question and the time expires, the answered questions will be submitted and marked, and the student will be graded on the number of questions he or she attempted. So for instance, if the student was able to attempt 5 questions out of 10 questions, and maybe for one reason or the other the student couldn't continue the quiz, wherever the student got to, that is the 5 questions the student answered, is what is going to be submitted automatically when the time expires. And then there is a grace period when open attempts can be submitted but no more questions answered. So when the student answers the questions, the student can wait for some time before submitting the quiz answers or the question for marking. So the grace period could be some minutes or some days after the questions have been answered before the student can submit it. In doing this means that the student can go back and view before submitting. And then we have attempts must be submitted before time expires or they are not counted. For this option, if the student is able to answer 5 questions and the time given is 10 minutes, if the student is unable to finish the quiz on time to submit it, then the student wouldn't have any marks for it. What I'm trying to say is that the student must manually submit the quiz in order to get the marks for the ones that he or she has answered. So this last option is the opposite of the first option. So most of the times, most teachers use the first option because even if the student was able to answer only 1 question and the time goes against him, that 1 question that the student has answered will be submitted automatically. So that one does not require the student to click on submit before the quiz will be submitted for marking. It will be submitted automatically for marking when the time is up. So we go ahead and choose the first option, and then we will disable this one. We don't have submission grace period. No, as soon as the time is up, the quiz attempts should be submitted for marking. Then we move on to grade. With grade 2, we have grade category. We have only 1 option here, so we leave it that way. And then grade to pass. If we have 5 questions and each question carries 2 marks, then the grade to pass, we can give it a half mark. The half mark is going to be the grade to pass. So if the questions carries 10 marks, we can put 5 to be the grade to pass. And then attempts allowed. This is where you specify the number of times the student can answer the quiz questions. So if we put unlimited, the students have unlimited number of times to attempt the questions. Choosing this will make the student attempt the questions and come back and attempt again to correct his or her answers. Most of the times we can specify the number of attempts, and I'm going to choose 1. And then the grading method 2, we have the highest grade. We will choose that one for this tutorial. And then we have the layout. This is where you choose the number of questions that should appear on a page. So for instance, if I choose 2 questions, it means that I will have 2 questions appearing per page. And then with this, because of network issues, we can allow most questions on a page so that when the student is able to finish 1 page and submit, the student will know that this number of questions I've been able to answer and submitted. So even if the time is due or my network fails me, I have greater part of the question answered. But if we make it every question on a page, it will require internet to load onto the next page. So we can decide to allow some number of questions on a page. And in my case, I don't have so much questions. I'm going to allow 2 questions per page. And then with the navigation method 2, we are going to choose free. Question behavior. Shuffle within questions. Yes, the questions will be shuffled for each student. Each student will have a different question numbering. And then deferred feedback. When a question is answered, the student doesn't get instant feedback. The feedback is deferred, as the student will get to know the marks or the outcome of the quiz after the quiz is over for that particular student. And then we have allow redo within an attempt. If a student answers a question and thinks about the question again and get to know that the answer to the question is wrong, the student can re-choose or reattempt the question. We can select no, or if we select this one, the second option, it says student may redo another version of any finished question. So if the student is able to finish a question, the student can correct the answers that have been presented. So in our case, I'm going to choose no. The student can't redo attempts. So with each attempt build on the last, if we select yes, it means that each new question attempt will contain the results of the previous attempt, and this allows a quiz to be completed over several attempts. So with this option, it will allow the student to attempt the same questions over some number of times or for a number of times until the student is satisfied with the answers. And with this one too, we are going to choose no. And then we have review option. With the review option too, during the attempt, we want to deselect all of this. During the attempt, we don't want to show the right answer to the student. We don't want to show the marks to the student. We don't want to show any feedback whether the student is correct or wrong. So we are going to deselect everything here too, and with this one we will leave the marks. And then we are going to deselect everything here too. We wouldn't want to show the right answer. And then we can also deselect all this one and show the overall feedback. But whether the student had a question correct or wrong wouldn't be shown. All what will be shown is the marks and the feedback, whether good, excellent, That is the only thing that is going to be shown. It depends on the lecturer once again to explore all these settings and allow some in his or her quiz. And with appearance too, we can decide to show the user's picture. In my case, I don't want to show their pictures. And then we have decimal places in grades. With decimal places in grades, if we have grades or marks which are something like 0.5 or 1.5 mark, then we have to select the number of decimal places that we want to allow in our grading. And for decimal places in question grades, for this one too, with overall mark or the feedback, if our individual questions contained half or 1.5 mark answers, then it means that we have to select this same as overall grades, so that the format that is taken for each grade is the same format that will be taken for the overall grading. So if we choose 2 decimal places, our overall grading will be graded in 2 decimal places. So we could get, a student can get a marks like 10.5 or 9.5. That is if our individual questions had half or 1.5 mark in them. Then we have extra restrictions on attempt. We can put password on the quiz. When we put password on the quiz, it will require that the student enter the password before accessing the quiz. So after entering the password for the quiz, we will give the password to the student, so that whenever or when the time is due for them to do the quiz, they will enter the password before opening or accessing the quiz to answer the questions. Then we have required network address. This is not important. Enforced delay between first and second attempt. We wouldn't want to use this, but we can explore and use it to suit any way we want our quiz to be. And then browser security too, we're going to skip that one. Now we have overall feedback. This is where we are going to give an overall feedback of the total marks a student gets in a quiz. So let's say if the boundary is from 80% going, the feedback we want to give is excellent. And then we can add more feedback fields by clicking here to present us with more feedback fields. Okay, now we've gotten more feedback fields, and then we are going to state another grade boundary, maybe from 60%, and we're going to choose a feedback for that one too. I'm going to put very good. Now I'll put good here. And then the last one, I'm going to put 20%. And then the 0 grade boundary to okay. So this is my grading boundary. 80% excellent. If the student gets 60, very good. Then more than 40, good. So in that order. After we move to common Moodle settings, we have to make our quiz visible. So we click on show to show our quiz. ID number, if we want, we can give an ID number for our quiz. And then if there are groups within the class and we want to set a particular question for a particular group too, we can create that group and select the group from here. In my case, I don't have any group. And then we have the almighty restrict access, of which we can restrict the quiz by date, by grade, user profile, or we can set a restriction logic in here. So it means that with this function we can set a quiz for next semester and put the date on it, that if the date is not up, the quiz shouldn't show to the student. So after doing all our settings and checking whether everything is okay, we'll go ahead and click on save and return to course. Okay, now we have our quiz created. General quiz, there's it over here. So the quiz has been created alright, the settings have been done alright, but there are no questions in the quiz. So when we open the quiz, we could see that it's showing that no questions have been added yet. This is how we can create a quiz. In our next tutorial, we're going to look at how we can add questions to the quiz, and we are going to look at how we can format our questions and import it into Moodle.